The rain hammered against the windows of our small apartment in Seattle, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Alaric, a 43-year-old IT specialist, had always considered myself a logical man, a man of facts and figures. But the facts before me now were anything but logical. They were a tangled mess of deceit, betrayal, and a heartbreak so profound it felt like a physical wound. It had started subtly, almost imperceptibly. My wife Bronte, a vibrant and outgoing marketing manager, had begun spending more time at the office. Late nights, weekend projects, urgent client meetings, the excuses piled up like the unread books on our shelf. I'd attributed it to her ambition, her drive to succeed. I was proud of her, genuinely. I cooked her favorite meals, kept the apartment tidy, and tried to be as supportive as possible. I wanted her to know I was her rock, her safe harbor in the stormy seas of corporate life. But then came the phone calls. Whispered conversations in the hallway, the hurried click of the end call button when I entered the room. Bronte had always been an open book, sharing every detail of her day with me. Now she was guarded, secretive. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was being paranoid, insecure. But the feeling persisted, a nagging unease that gnawed at my insides. The final straw came in the form of a misplaced receipt. I was looking for a pen in Bronte's purse when I stumbled upon it, a charge for a romantic dinner at the Gilded Lily, a restaurant known for its intimate atmosphere and breathtaking views of the Puget Sound. The date was last Tuesday, a night Bronte had told me she was working late. My heart clenched. I knew, with a sickening certainty, that something was terribly wrong. I confronted her that evening, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to remain calm. "Bronte," I began, holding out the receipt. "Can you explain this?" She paled, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape route. "Alaric, it's not what you think," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Then tell me what it is," I pressed, my voice rising. "Tell me why you were at a romantic restaurant on Tuesday night when you told me you were working late." She hesitated, then launched into a convoluted story about a client dinner, a last-minute change of venue, a colleague who had insisted on treating her. It was a flimsy excuse, riddled with holes, and I saw the lie shimmering in her eyes. "Stop," I said, cutting her off. "Just stop. I don't believe you." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she reached for my hand. "Alaric, please," she begged. "Don't do this. I love you." But the words felt hollow, meaningless. The trust was broken, shattered into a million pieces. I pulled my hand away, the pain in my chest a dull, throbbing ache. "Who was he, Bronte?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. She refused to answer, burying her face in her hands and sobbing. I repeated the question, each time my voice growing colder, more insistent. Finally, she relented, the words tumbling out in a rush of guilt and shame. It's Quentin," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Quentin." My blood ran cold. Quentin was her colleague, a slick, charismatic account executive who had always been overly friendly with Bronte. I had dismissed it as harmless banter, a sign of their professional camaraderie. Now I realized I had been blind, a fool. The details of the affair spilled out in a torrent of tears and confessions. Late-night drinks after work, stolen lunches, secret rendezvous in hotels. The lies, the deception, the betrayal, it was all so much worse than I had imagined. I listened in stunned silence, the weight of her words crushing me. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about my marriage, was a lie. The woman I loved, the woman I had pledged to spend my life with, had been systematically deceiving me for months. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring out at the rain-slicked streets, my mind racing, my heart aching. I replayed every moment of our relationship, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. But all I found were more lies, more deception. In the days that followed, I became a ghost, a hollow shell of the man I once was. I went through the motions of daily life, but my heart wasn't in it. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't think. The pain was all-consuming, a constant reminder of Bronte's betrayal. She tried to apologize, to explain, to win me back. But I couldn't forgive her. The trust was gone, irrevocably broken. I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and deceit. It would slowly poison me, eroding my soul until there was nothing left. I told her I wanted a divorce. She pleaded with me, begging me to reconsider. She promised to end the affair, to go to therapy, to do whatever it took to save our marriage. But it was too late. The damage was done. I couldn't look at her without seeing the betrayal in her eyes. The divorce was messy, acrimonious. Bronte fought me every step of the way, trying to take as much as she could. She even tried to blame me for the affair, claiming I had been distant and unsupportive. But I stood my ground, refusing to be bullied or manipulated. In the end, I walked away with nothing but my dignity and my sanity. I left the apartment, the city, the life we had built together. I needed a fresh start, a chance to heal and rebuild. I moved to a small town in Montana, far away from the hustle and bustle of city life. I bought a small cabin in the mountains and spent my days hiking, fishing, and reading. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain didn't disappear entirely, but it became more manageable, a dull ache rather than a sharp, stabbing pain. One day, about a year after the divorce, I received a letter from a mutual friend. It contained a picture of Bronte and Quentin. They were standing in front of a courthouse, their faces etched with exhaustion and disillusionment. The caption read, "Bronte and Quentin finally tied the knot. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. He's a controlling, jealous man and she's miserable. Karma is a bitch, isn't it?" I stared at the picture for a long time, a strange mixture of emotions swirling inside me. Sadness, anger, pity, and yes, a small measure of satisfaction. I didn't feel vindicated exactly. Their misery didn't erase the pain I had endured. But it did give me a sense of closure, a confirmation that I had made the right decision. I had escaped a toxic relationship, a life built on lies, and I had emerged stronger, more resilient. I crumpled the picture in my hand and tossed it into the fireplace. The flames licked at the edges, consuming it until it was nothing but ashes. I watched it burn, feeling a sense of finality, a release. I never saw Bronte or Quentin again. I never heard from them. But I knew deep down that they were living with the consequences of their actions. And Alaric, the betrayed husband, was finally free. Years passed. The scars of betrayal faded, replaced by new experiences, new relationships. I learned to trust again, to love again. I found happiness in unexpected places, in the simple joys of life. One crisp autumn evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sun set over the mountains, I received a phone call. It was Bronte. Her voice was weak, trembling. She told me she was sick, very sick. Quentin had left her, taking everything with him. She was alone, penniless, and terrified. She asked for my help. She asked for forgiveness. I listened patiently, my heart filled with a strange mix of emotions. Pity, sadness, and a flicker of something else. Not anger, not resentment, but something akin to compassion. I told her I forgave her, not for her sake, but for my own. I needed to let go of the past, to release the last vestiges of bitterness and resentment. Forgiveness was the final step in my healing process, but I also told her I couldn't help her. I had moved on, built a new life. I couldn't go back, couldn't re-enter the toxic world we had once shared. She understood. She thanked me for my forgiveness and hung up. I never heard from her again. I sat on the porch for a long time, staring out at the darkening mountains. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the whispers of the past. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let it all go. I was free. Finally, truly free. My story is not one of revenge or retribution. It's a story of survival, of resilience, of the enduring power of the human spirit. It's a story of how I, Alaric, the betrayed husband, found my way back from the brink of despair and learned to love again, to trust again, to live again. And to you, dear reader, who may be facing a similar heartbreak, I offer this. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think, and you will get through this. Believe in yourself, trust your instincts, and never, ever give up on hope. The sun will rise again, and you will find your way back to the light. One more thing. I recently read a book I found at a local bookstore. It was titled The Art of Moving On, a guide for the betrayed. The author, a therapist specializing in infidelity cases, recommended a rather unconventional method for healing: writing a letter to your former spouse, detailing every emotion, every hurt, every anger, but never sending it. The act of writing, she claimed, was cathartic, a way to release the pent-up emotions without the risk of re-engaging in toxic cycles. I tried it. I wrote a long, rambling letter to Bronte, pouring out every ounce of pain and resentment I had held onto for so long. It was exhausting, emotionally draining, but ultimately incredibly liberating. I sealed the letter, addressed it to her old address, which I knew she no longer lived at, and then with a sense of profound relief I burned it. The smoke carried away the last vestiges of my past, leaving me feeling lighter, freer, and more at peace than I had felt in years. Perhaps this could help you too. And if I may add one final piece of advice, learn to recognize the red flags early on. Don't ignore your gut feelings. Trust your intuition. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And don't be afraid to confront the issue head on. Open and honest communication is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship. If your partner is unwilling to communicate, to be transparent, then that's a major red flag. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Be vigilant, be aware, and be prepared to walk away if necessary. Your happiness and well-being are worth more than any relationship, no matter how long or how meaningful it may seem. Remember that.